In 2010, a professor at Wellesley College in Massachusetts in the US named Susan Reverby was researching the Tuskegee syphilis study of the 1930s, in which hundreds of African American men were injected with syphilis and then left untreated for 40 years in order to study the natural progression of the disease. While researching, Professor Reverby uncovered a similar experiment by the US, which took place in Guatemala around the same time. The Guatemala experiment went further than the Tuskegee by deliberately infecting 1,500 Guatemalans with syphilis, gonorrhea, and cancroid in order to test the early antibiotic penicillin. It was 1946, and orphans in Guatemala City, along with prisoners, military conscripts, and prostitutes, had been selected for a medical experiment which would torment many and remain secret for more than 6 decades. Jose, this is a really big deal.
It is.
They were concerned that GIs were returning with STDs from war, and they needed a way to test it out, and so they developed penicillin, and in doing so, what did they do? Went to another country, kept things on the down low, and now we're seeing backlash from that decades later. It was Hopkins University and the philanthropic Rockefeller Foundation who sent the researchers. They're the ones being blamed for designing, supporting, encouraging, and even financing the whole experiment. So now nearly 800 plaintiffs have launched a $1 billion lawsuit against the university. For obvious reasons, Johns Hopkins is coming out and saying, no, we had nothing to do with this, but the proof is there, the evidence is there. The people involved who actually who carried out the experiments and stuff, they're all long dead. But unfortunately, a lot of people are still living with the disease today and have also spread it to their family members. Really sad.
It's a situation where we see why there is that bad rep to the United States in other countries. They go undercover.
We did it to our own people too, the Tuskegee experiment.
Exactly. It's this disregard for the life of the poor, of the populations that are struggling, and it's obvious that they don't have the same value than the congressmen or the board of directors of this university that approved these programs to exist in the first place. That being said, the way these experiments were conducted were atrocious. You mentioned one of the aspects of these experiments were infecting prostitutes, sex workers that will come to the hospitals to their checkups, or because they were already experiencing some disease. And then they were inoculated with the viruses or the disease, and then sent to control groups of individuals to have sex with them, and then be able to have your control group ready to see how the progression of the disease worked and how they were reacting to, like you said, penicillin. It's really angering to see that there's no way to bring these people to justice other than sue for money against it's a non-profit organization, but it's still a corporation, a private entity. There's no way that we can blame a government, because obviously there's laws that prevent the U.S. government from being blamed by things that happen outside of the U.S.
Yeah.
So it's a very angry situation that people's life and families were hurt and forever over this.
Yeah, now they're suing for $1 billion, which is a lot of money. Some of the people that are suing who were involved with the study is Marta Orellana. She was an orphan. She was 9 years old at the time. She was at her orphanage when all of a sudden on the PA system, someone asked Orellana to come to the nurse's office. She went over there. There was a few men. She said in an interview they looked American. She assumed they were English or something. They were there with another Guatemalan doctor, and they asked her to sit down, spread open her legs, and they're going to give her a shot. She was scared. She didn't know what to do. Eventually, they forced her to do it. She had no idea what was happening. No one ever explained anything. So it's like, this is literally animal testing going on human people. And it's so bad. I have a quote from her. This is how she explained her experience and kind of what went on through her eyes. She said this: "They never told me what they were doing. They never gave me a chance to say no. I've lived almost my whole life without knowing the truth. May God forgive them. Really sad, lived her whole life without knowing. Finally, thank God for Professor Reverby, who came out and released these things, because without it, these kinds of things would never, ever, ever come to light. So we really appreciate her work, even though it was an accident. We're glad things panned out the way they did. Do you guys think there's some other things that might be just as bad as this experiment and the Tuskegee experiment that we just don't know anything about? Is the US government really that shady? Let us know what you guys think by commenting. And of course, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the Lip TV for more.